Hello and welcome to this very special panel with Indigenous leaders. I am your host, Matt Belair. The intention of this is to open a dialogue and discuss Native American culture, history, spirituality, issues, and whatever else may arise in this conversation. I want to thank each of these guests for agreeing to come together. I'm going to give a very brief introduction for each of these amazing people, and then we'll ask them to introduce themselves in their own words. First, we have Brian Francis, who is a Mi'kmaq documentary filmmaker, interpreter for the House of Commons, and an avid researcher. We have Carlos Barrios, who is a Mayan Ah. He is an expert in the sacred Maya calendar, member of the Council of Elders, and organizer for the first gathering of Native Elders of the American continent in 1995. We have his daughter, Solveig, who will be helping with interpretation as well. She's welcome to ask as many questions as she wants. I'm not going to be hosting this just myself, so everybody's going to be welcome to share and ask questions. We also have David Lonebear Senepas, who is a Mi'kmaq. He is a scientist, engineer, mathematician, and STAR teachings teacher. And hopefully, we're trying to track down Clifford Mahooty. He is missing in action right now, but hopefully he will join us. He knows the call is now, but Clifford sometimes will disappear. He is a Zuni Pueblo Indian elder. He's a member of the tribal orders of the Kachina Priesthood. He is also an engineer and worked for the government, so hopefully he will be joining us. And that is all I have to say for introductions. So I will go around and ask you each to share a little bit in your own words, who you are, a little bit about your culture, and whatever you feel that you want to share. So why don't we start with Carlos?
¿Necesitas una traducción?
Yo creo que sí. Oh, no sé, yo creo que no. Okay,
Él
thank you.
básicamente quiere... Ujú.
¿Ya? Yo no sé cómo estoy. Bueno, yo voy.
Ya, puedes hacer una introducción sobre ti mismo y un poco de la cultura maya.
Sí, sí. Okay. I'd like to explain my case is very strange. But when I was younger, around 16 years, I went to a village, a native village in Guatemala. In this day, there is no Western people in this place, no store, no nothing. It's just a very simple place. And I went later with the university to study. We have a professor of sociology who is interested. And in this moment, I find my friend, the old man who was my master, who teach me. And this is a gift for me because I can receive the teachings in first hand for one of the most incredible elders in my history, in my vision. He was very wisdom. And these people can read, okay, he can read one page in around 1 hour, but he knows everything and he have a very extraordinary memory. So I have the fortune to he teach me. And after I finished to study in the university, I study for history man, and I'm beginning to study for anthropologists. And the most important for me, this was not important. The university for me is something to never give me nothing an essential. Okay, theories and methodologies for research the people, but nothing deeper. So when I can begin to talk with my elder, that's so amazing. Later they give me the order to write a book, and I write the Book of Destiny, who was published in 11 languages. And I at the same time they send me to the world to be a conference man. I am surprised because I said I never write a book, I never talk to the people. Why they like to? I can do that. And in this exactly moment when I returned to the village, um, the telephone is ringing, and I went to answer, and it's an anthropologist from the Harvard University who is interested if I can go to give a talk. And that so happened. After this, there's a lot of schools, college, universities, but that's not my favorite position. I continue to do with libraries, with bookstores, with New Age Center, because I feel these people are really more interested into the spirituality. And was amazing because I will going to talk later, but that's in short words. So I beginning to study, and I have the gift to study with two of the most amazing elders. Don Pascual, this indigenous people, who was the someone who can read, and the other who is the opposite, who is the my elder, who he he studied 14 PhD, and he speak around 20 different languages, including Mayan Indian language, but the ancient of the world, Latino, Greek, and okay, Sanskrit, and all this. He was a very wisdom person. So I have this gift, and I learn for these people. And now is the moment for many times, but now is more precisely to share with the people, because this is our mission, to control the like what we are doing with the environment, what we are doing with like a human beings, the Mother Earth, and our life purpose, who is most important. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Solveig, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I am Carlos's daughter, and I am here only to translate and maybe ask a couple of questions as well. Because I'm really, really honored and happy to be here surrounded by so many interesting people, and I cannot wait to see where this is going to lead us. And I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting conversation. I know a lot about the Maya geocosmovision because of my dad. So, but I'm really happy to learn today about different traditions and different cultures and different ideas. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me, and that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you so much for coming. We did an interview. I went down to Guatemala and I got to have conversations with your dad, and I posted those online, and you did a really tremendous job translating, because Carlos's first language is in Spanish. And so he's able to share a lot more information that way. And you did a tremendous job. And it's also great to have a woman on the panel. I know Clifford, or David and Clifford and Brian were hoping that we would have a woman representation. So you're here, and next time, hopefully it will be even more balanced with a couple more females here to share. And with that said, Brian, would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Wala ni Matt. Nin wabeg mo in Luisi. Dan the new Jamich. So the book to play with. You can watch. Lali ka don mawali ni wala. Ito ya kan mali. Give me na the local. That was school to move. With down chicken amasido. Iluan ya was what a new man. It was the easy to make a sit down. Just want to thank you, Matt, for bringing us all together. I want to acknowledge and honor the other guests, the elders that are that I have the honor of being online with right now. It is quite an honor for me, as I feel that their expertise and their wisdom and their knowledge is so vast that I just hope I can contribute a little bit to this. I'm from the Mi'kmaq Nation in New Brunswick, Canada. We can safely say that we were probably the first people that the Europeans contacted when they first arrived. History books tell us it was in 1604, but my research and from what I can gather, the first contact happened a long time before that. And I've been, I guess, on a quest to find the truth for about 25 years at least. And I don't have any formal education in history or anthropology or archaeology or anything like that. It's basically an interest that I developed many years ago. And it started off with a comment that my mother made when I was in my teens, and she said that there used to be a non-native man that used to come to the community with a pick and shovel. They said that he was in search of Viking gold, and I wondered about that for a long time. So I started trying to find out the history and who was here first. Well, who visited us first, and through oral history, through meeting people, I've learned a lot, and there's a lot more to learn. And it's brought me here so far, and there's a lot of misinformation, I guess, that's out there that people need to decipher. And one of the paths that my quest has led me to is coming into contact with David Lonebear Sanipass and his Star Teachings. So, one of the first things that struck me with the Star Teachings is how old they were. I believe that they were the first teachings. In our language, we have a word called Skadegamujuwauki. When you translate that, it literally translates to spirit path. And it was only after I met David that I put two and two together, that when we are in ceremony and we summon the spirits, which we do in every ceremony, that is the path that they use. It is more commonly known as the Milky Way. So now, when I am in ceremony and I use that word, it takes a total different, it's a different meaning for me. And it's just the start, I guess, of a number of revelations that I've come across. And in my work as a filmmaker, I meet a lot of people, and I learn a lot of things about other people. And I always believe that the people that come in our paths, people that we meet them for a reason, and everything is laid out. And I don't think that meeting everybody that I've met is a coincidence. I believe that they're all meant. They all have a reason to be in my path, to have crossed my path. So I'm not really an expert in any field, but I'm interested in history. I'm interested in people. I'm interested in spirituality and ceremony, and basically, I guess that's why I'm here. And I want to thank you all for letting me be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate those words, and you're very humble. The documentaries that you've made, I feel, are very important, and you're incredibly knowledgeable about the Mi'kmaq history. You've taught me a lot. Granted, I don't know that much, and that's why I'm so happy you're here to just share even the basics so I can understand them. In our podcast, we talked about the treaties a little bit and the treaty history. So I feel like you're incredibly knowledgeable and also incredibly humble. And I'm grateful that you're here, and you've been doing a lot of research that you've told me about, and I've learned a lot. So thank you for coming. I appreciate you being here. And David, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Matthew. I just want to thank you for making this possible. 30 years ago, this would have been impossible to do with so many distinguished wisdom keepers that we have amongst us right now. And I'm very honored to be here this evening with the wisdom keepers. I think it's very important that we understand what a wisdom keeper is. It's a lot of things in this world is so bastardized, and all the different words and stuff like that. You know, they say native elder and all this, and that kind of makes our eyes blurry. You know, sometimes when we say, "Oh, it's an elder," we're going to speak words of wisdom. Well, elder is earned in our culture and other cultures. So, my name is David Lonebear Sanapass. My mother and father, my mother was Mary Ann Sanapass. My father was Donald Joseph Sanapass. I was born somewhere near here, and I've been practicing my culture since I was a baby. When people say, "Do you practice your culture?" You know, I say, "Well, do you practice yours?" And people say, "I have no culture." If you really look at it, you do have a culture, but we don't recognize that as a culture when they see a native and doing all the ceremonies. You may be non-native and still practice the culture of where you come from. It doesn't have anything to do with ceremony as much as people think it is. It is what you think you are in this world. I was raised by my elders and my parents, my grandparents. Did I always follow the teachings? No. I mean, we were young growing up, and you know, I steered away from the teachings for at least 27 years. I spent I kind of cut myself away from civilization and spent most of the time on a mountain, 27 years, only because I think at that time the world seemed like it was bad, and looking at the non-natives, or we call them white people, that thinking about all the things they've done, the atrocities and everything else, and we can think about that all we want and all the times that ever happened and everything else. But today is a different day. And my elders always told me that. It says, you can only live this 1 second in this day. You can't live 2 seconds in tomorrow or 2 seconds in the past. You are here. You know, as growing up and bringing the star teachings out there, it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, it sounds easy. I speak to thousands and thousands of people every few months. You think everybody's listening? No, I think we still have beeswax in our ears. We want to know the knowledge. We want to be able to go out there and say that we're wise, but we are still killing each other. We still have walls. We still have borders. We still have all these different things. You know, culture or traditions is not very useful when even your own people are not practicing it. You know, if I go back to my home, that when I talk, there's a very few people that show up. What's happening to all the other people out there, the Mi'kmaq people of the other nations? You know, is it so much that clever that we have to say different words to have somebody come in, or have the perfect iPhone, or the perfect casino, the bingo hall? You know, I think I get kind of mad about that. I wasn't going to come on today. The only reason why is that I don't know. It's just that I've been on thousands of these panels and people come to listen. What can we do today, at this very second, to make a change in this world for the good? I mean, You look at it now, you can see all the bad in the world, but there's also good in this world too. There's a balance, you know. The creators put a balance so we can see it and we can choose that. And I think as a storyteller, or whatever people call me, and people call me a lot of different things, that if I'm not affecting change, you know, I must well hand my stuff in and said, no, I'm not affecting change. People wonder, even in where I come from, what are the Star Teachings? Well, I need about 15 minutes of your time to tell you what the Star Teachings are, and I'm pretty sure that you're already practicing it. People don't realize that. But I've been doing this for a while, and Matthew is a good friend, and Brian's a good friend. I don't know you guys yet, but I hope that you guys are good friends too. I know very little, honestly. People call me elder. I haven't earned that distinction of an elder yet. I know 1% of 1%. That's not very much in this world, but I just know enough to get me in trouble. So thank you, Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, David. My name is Matt Belair. Some of you may know me because you watched the podcast. This is a little bit different because I have some amazing teachers on there, and I think even Solveig, spending time with her in Guatemala, is an amazing person, and I'm glad that she's able to be here as well. One of the things that I've learned from studying from David and Carlos and Clifford, if we can track them down, is very fascinating to hear that it's a 20,000-year history. And when I was learning from David, some of the stuff I was learning was so mind-blowing to me. It was trying to figure out, is this the real history? Who were the first people here? How far does history go? What's the actual truth? And to hear different elders or teachers saying the same thing but not knowing each other, I thought was fascinating. And watching David and Clifford talk and share was amazing. Listening to Brian and having conversations with him, they're always just so knowledgeable in conversations I don't have anywhere else. You know, I could say that I have David will say non-natives, you know, and I'm a non-native. But when I have a discussion with a native, it's a totally different culture. It's a totally different history. There's a totally different view of the world and understanding and connection and way of being. And it's something that I'm learning, and I learned so much of that. And one of the fascinating things is how when I will learn from different teachers that so much of it will be congruent, but it'll come from a different culture. You guys won't know each other. And I find that very fascinating. And it also adds weight to what that teaching is and where it came from. And I remember being in Guatemala, we were at this festival, and I saw some of what David speaks about is like the fluffiness. You know, a lot of people want the fluffiness, and there was a panel of people, and Carlos was there, and he was one of the main reasons I wanted to go down, because I wanted to talk to him and learn from him. And we had this panel of younger people talking a lot of fluffiness about even the Mayan calendar and things like that. And Carlos was there just like, oh no, that's not the right thing. And but the people there, they weren't recognizing that, and it was more about something else. It wasn't about the real history. And when Carlos finally got an opportunity to speak, he one of his main points was the new spirituality is action. And I thought that was important. And I think it's one of the lessons that I've learned from all of you is that spirituality can be simple principles too. It can be being kind. It can be doing things in your practicing kindness, practicing those spiritual actions each day. And they're very grounded teachings. And so I think, David, that's a really good idea of what can we do today? And that's what I'll go back to Carlos and ask for the future and where we are now on the planet. What do you see that we can do now today to affect change? And where do you see the world going? And how do we work more together as a people and as a planet?
¿Me ayudas a traducir?
Sí, papi, no te preocupes. Él básicamente está preguntando que...
Soy yo, que me traduzcas a mí. Eso ya está más.
Ah, ok, por supuesto.
Sí.
Sí.
Yo entendí todo.
Ok, perfecto. Entonces yo te traduzco. Ahí me intento
Okay,
hacerlo poco a poco.
solo para entrar en el punto que dijo David, no conocemos nuestra historia. Es muy triste. Aún dentro de las comunidades indígenas no conocemos nuestra historia, porque ya estamos metidos en los medios masivos de comunicación, en el Internet.
I just want to start by saying, and I find it so true what he said, that we don't really know our history. Not even inside of our own indigenous culture, the people who live and grow up in this culture, so many of them don't even know their own history. And especially nowadays with the new technology and the social media, it has taken away so much of that from us as well.
Okay, los demás oyeron? Everybody understand because I have bad reception?
Yeah.
Yes?
Do you want to
Okay,
continue?
Well. Yes, no, I because I don't hear very well to Solveig. That's okay. El libro sagrado de los mayas quichés, el Popol Vuh,
The sacred book of the Maya Quichés, the Popol Vuh,
nos hace un relato cuando vinieron los 4 semidioses sagrados.
tells us the story of when the 4 semi-gods that were sacred came here.
Eran los 4 Balanev.
They were the 4 Valamevs.
Balam significa jaguar.
Balam means jaguar.
Y eran, pues su apariencia era mitad humana, mitad jaguar.
Their appearance was half human and half jaguar.
En ese tiempo, narra el libro del Popol Vuh, que la humanidad estaba sufriendo de frío, mucho frío.
During the time, says the Popol Vuh, that humanity was suffering from cold. It was very cold.
Y todo lo que plantaban, no crecían las plantas porque el terreno estaba con lodo. Era muy lodoso.
Every time they tried to plant, the plants wouldn't grow because all of the fields, all of the land was full of mud.
Y no había comida.
There was no food.
Lo único que comían era el fruto de un árbol que se llama ramón.
The only thing they could eat was the fruit from a tree called ramon.
Okay. Habían perdido el fuego. Los quichés habían perdido el fuego.
The Quiché people had lost the fire.
Y estaban viviendo en las cavernas para protegerse del frío.
And they were living inside of the caves to protect themselves from the cold weather.
Dice el Popol Vuh que el ambiente era como, cuando querías ver el sol, era como verlo en un espejo con vaho, de tanta neblina que había.
It says in the Popol Vuh that the weather was so bad and the environment was so bad, the atmosphere looked so bad, and it was so cloudy that when you try to look at the sun, it was looking at it as a dirty mirror. And you could only see the reflection far away.
Okay. Ellos pidieron a estos semidioses que hablaran con el Padre Sol para limpiar el ambiente, para que regresara a la vida.
So the people talked to the 4 semi-gods and asked them to go talk to the Father Sun and ask him to clean everything, to clean the environment and bring life back.
Para ubicarnos en la época que esto sucedió, eso fue al final de la glaciación Grum 4.
To the time in which this happened was at the end of the Grum 4 glaciation, yeah? Ice age, kind of.
Y estamos hablando de no menos de 16,000 a 20,000 años.
And we're talking about no less than 16,000 to 20,000 years ago.
Eso rompe con todo lo que nos dice la ciencia oficial,
And that breaks everything that the official science tells us.
porque ellos ya eran una cultura desarrollada cuando vino esa glaciación. Entonces, el mundo maya, igual que todo el mundo nativo americano de todo el continente, es mucho más antiguo de lo que nos quieren enseñar.
The people were already very developed at that time, and the Maya world, just like the whole people from all of America during that time, these cultures are way older than what history is really telling us.
Ok, estos Balaner fueron por todo el mundo a educar a los diferentes pueblos.
The Valamecs went around the world to educate the different people.
Y hay registros cuando fueron a la India,
It has been registered that they were in India,
en sus vimanas, que son unos objetos voladores.
it also talks about the vimanas, which are flying objects.
Y ellos enseñaron a la gente hindú que era nómada, la escritura, bueno, toda la cultura.
And it is said that they taught the people from India at the time how to write and how to do all of their culture, everything. At the time, they were nomads.
Los hindúes llamaron a esta gente los Naga Maya.
The people from India called the Valamecs the Nagamaya.
Naga es serpiente en sánscrito y pues, Maya es ilusión, pero también se refiere a estas personalidades.
Naga means snake in Sanskrit, and Maya means illusion, but it also means all of this reality.
Y es muy interesante, en el noreste de India hay una
In the north
provincia,
of India,
hay
there's
una
a province.
una provincia que se llama Nagapur,
There's a province called Nagapur,
y ellos llevan el calendario maya exactamente igual.
and their calendar is exactly the same as the Maya calendar.
Las 20 energías es un calendario de 260 días. Es exactamente igual, los mismos nombres, no varían, pero ni una palabra.
It is exactly the same. They also have 20 energies. They also have 260 days. The names that they give to the days and to the energies are exactly the same. It doesn't vary even for one word.
Okay. Yo quería aportar eso. Otro día tendremos la oportunidad de hablar de la historia con mucha más profundidad. Pero para que entendamos esto, que es muy, muy interesante.
I just wanted to share that with you. Hopefully another day we will be able to talk about this part of history a little bit more in depth. But I just wanted to share that because I believe it's really interesting to know about it.
Ok, ahora respecto a tu pregunta, Matt.
And to answer your question, Matt,
nosotros en el 2012 sufrimos la burla de todo el mundo, porque no hubo fin del mundo.
in 2012, the whole world laughed at us because there was not an end of the world. Like it was.
Pero por más que nosotros tratamos, yo fui a History Channel en Nueva York. Bueno, los únicos que me publicaron algo fue The Washington Post, un periódico en Clarín en Argentina y un periódico en Suecia y otro en Alemania. Nadie quiere decir que no era fin del mundo.
As hard as we tried to tell everybody that we never said it is the end of the world, I was invited by History Channel, but then they didn't want to publish what I wanted to say because I wanted to say that it is not the end of the world. The only ones that published a little bit of what I said about it not being the end of the world was the Washington Post and two newspapers in Argentina. But everybody wanted to sell the idea that 2012 was going to be the end of the world.
Los abuelos piensan que eso fue un complot para desprestigiar al mundo maya.
Some of the elders believe that this was a complot to take away the belief yeah, so that to make the Mayans look bad, to make the Maya world look bad.
Okay. Pero resulta que ahora están otra vez poniendo la atención en el mundo maya.
But it turns out that now people started to put attention to the Maya world again.
El 20 de diciembre del 2012 terminó un ciclo.
The 20th of December of 2012, a cycle finished.
De 5,200 años.
A cycle that lasted 5,200 years.
Y el 21 de diciembre empezó un nuevo ciclo.
And on the 21st of December, a new cycle began.
Este ciclo es el Hob Ahau.
The cycle is called Hob Ahau,
que significa el quinto sol.
Which means the fifth sun.
Es una época de crecimiento, de armonía, de superación del espíritu.
It is a time of growth, of harmony, and of growth of the spirit.
Pero hay 5 pequeños microciclos.
But it has 5 small microcycles.
Del 2012, que realmente es unos días para el 2013. Del 2012 para el 2013.
From 2012, but almost 2013.
Para el 2026.
Until 2026.
Estamos viviendo la época del fuego.
We're going to go through the time of fire.
Es como cuando es como un niño que está creciendo, entonces podemos ver todas las acciones de un niño en nuestros presidentes, en todo lo que está sucediendo, complicaciones por todos lados.
So this first 13 years of this cycle are the time of fire, and it manifests as a child that is growing. And so what we are going to see in years until 2026 is childlike attitudes in all of our politicians, our presidents, and society itself.
Okay. Del 2026 al 2039.
From 2026 until 2039.
Empieza el ciclo del elemento tierra.
The cycle of the element of earth will begin.
Y este es un momento de aprendizaje con la experiencia. Es un aprendizaje duro.
And this cycle will come as a time for learning through experience. And it's not going to be an easy learning. It's going to be hard to go through that cycle.
Y hay confrontaciones, hay destrucción, porque es la forma de renovación.
There will be confrontation and there will be destruction, because that's going to be the way in which we're going to have to learn.
Esa sí es una época muy complicada. Porque un porcentaje grande de la humanidad puede desaparecer.
it's going to be a very complicated time because a big part of the population might disappear during the cycle.
Y después viene del 2026, del 39 al 52.
And then the next cycle will come from 2039 until 2052.
Esa es otra época difícil. Escasez, hambre, sequías, muy complicado.
It will also be a difficult cycle. It'll come with scarcity, hunger. It's going to be very complicated.
Okay. Eso es lo que, y después viene el ciclo para el 52.
And then the cycle that starts in 52 will come.
Did we lose him? Carlos, did we lose you?
Papa, ¿estás aquí? Papa. I think we might have lost him.
Well, hopefully he'll come back in. He's sharing a lot of information there. We'll wait for him to pop back in, and also send him a note on Facebook or something. Let me know if you can get him back. But what I want to ask, if David and Brian either want to comment on that, or I had a question for Brian, and I'll let you guys choose this. But Brian, I was curious about the state of like indigenous communities today, like from what you know. Like how is the culture doing? One of the things I found troubling when I went to I forget what museum, but it's like it was losing the language, and I think that that's a very important thing, to not lose the language and culture. So I'm curious if you can speak a little bit about how you feel the communities and the state of affairs are today, and being in the government as well. Do you think that there's a relationship with the non-natives there in our governments, or how do you feel about it in general?
Wow, that's quite a question, Matt. I'll tie it in a little bit with the question you asked earlier to Carlos and the panel, I guess.
Yes,
How
I'm
do
here.
we?
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Just for finish, we like to share with the people is like we're living very dangerous moment, and we are in the possibility for a big percent of humanity can disappear, and we need to be care because we are destroying the environment, the Mother Earth, and it's not possible that we don't have the consciousness. So that we need to do is project our heart, our mind, our liver, isn't the organs who have more neuronas, for activate the peaceful, for activate the balance with the Mother Earth. That's as we like to do. So, okay, ya me puse a hablar inglés. Ok, eso es lo que nosotros queremos llamar. That's as we like to call, to talk, to warn the people, the people take the real responsibility to take attention, because this is a very complicated moment. Can be a great destruction if we don't take and we don't stop the destruction. So finally, our presidents, our people who direct the human beings, they need to really take attention, because we don't have more chance. They are going to disappear, okay? And something, if it's necessary, is going to happen. It's not the humanity to go to disappear. The people with consciousness is going to survival. And what's the elder said? We need to return to the Mother Earth. We need to learn to plant our own food, our own elements, and we need to create the power of the real human beings. That's because this is the moment of the new humanity. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Carlos. That's that's a lot of information. I appreciate you sharing all that. And when we kind of lost you there, I asked Brian if he could share a little bit about the state of just how he feels the communities are doing in Canada, and from what he knows, and also the relationship. It's a loaded question, I guess, with our governments or just the non-natives in general, because what it makes me think about is when the Europeans came over and there was the first contact, you would hope for a collaboration, a share of cultures and ideas and history. And as I observe, I don't see that today. I still see it as I don't know the right word for it, but let's just say not a positive interaction, and especially on the Indigenous and Native side. So I'd be curious to hear Brian's point of view on that, and if Brian wants to share about anything else as well. So go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Carlos. So as I was saying, to go back to your question and David's statement about what we can do now, I can only speak about what I did and the path that I took. And I needed to find out who I was as an individual, first of all. Then I needed to find out who I was as an Indigenous person, as a Mi'kmaq person. What did that mean? Who am I? And once I started knowing that, it was only then that I became stronger, I guess. And learning more about the history, I really, my life really changed because I started living a totally different way of life. I guess you can say I started living truth. My father, who was a very prominent Native leader here in Canada, always instilled in us the treaties and the rights that came from that treaties, and that how they should benefit the first people of this country, of this continent, I guess. And so I began believing and living as a Mi'kmaq person. And but it was also frustrating because the government of Canada, which was formed after the treaties were signed, began implementing and imposing laws that were quite different and away from the intent of the treaties. We basically lost everything. We lost our culture, we lost our language, we lost our ceremonies, we lost our songs, all because we were, I guess, legislated into becoming a different people. I guess the policy, the Canadian government policy, was basically to assimilate all Native people into the Canadian society, Canadian mainstream, at all costs. So after, I guess, 400 years and more like 250 years of legislation, a lot of us have become assimilated. There is very little that differentiates us from mainstream Canada. And so there are many of us that are really lost. Communities seem to be thriving and moving forward and progressing. but they're not doing so as Mi'kmaq people. They're doing so as Canadians. So I think one of the things that we need to do is recover. We need to recover a lot of our ways, a lot of our ceremonies, because right now we're relying on borrowing, I guess, from other tribes out west, and trying to bring back and trying to maintain, I guess, some sort of cultural identity, which is quite far removed from the original, because it's been tainted for so long. It's been disconnected for so long, and us being put onto small pockets of land initially called reservations. Now we call them First Nation communities. Our culture has become more of a cult, and far away from that culture of who we were. So we have a lot of recovering to do. We need to try to understand and try to know who we are as a people before we can move forward. Otherwise, our communities are just going to be just like any other community in Canada. There will be nothing that differentiates us as a people. So I'm not sure if it's too late. Our languages are disappearing at an alarming rate. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody under the age of 20 that speaks the language fluently. So you can teach the children words and phrases, but the inherent life of a language will not be there. I, as a language speaker, grew up. That was my first language. The term mother tongue is it means so, it says so much, because that's the language that my mother spoke to me and spoke to my brothers and sisters growing up. That's what we heard. A lot of our children don't hear that anymore. When we pray, how do we pray? When we say sacred words that have lived for thousands and thousands of years, are words that our ancestors used, and for us to still be able to use those is like, it's incredible. So the state of our First Nation communities, I believe, is some of them may be doing well economically. Majority are not doing so well. There's a lot of communities that don't have clean drinking water. And it goes back to what Carlos was saying about trying to preserve Mother Earth. Because once man destroys its habitat, he's going to die. Mankind will die. But the earth will survive. It will recover itself. So we need to think about that. We need to try to place priorities. We sort of have to stop and then rewind. Because it makes no sense for us to try to live a healthy lifestyle, or try to do all these things that are going to improve our personal health, when on a holistic picture, we're destroying the earth that feeds us. So it really, there's a saying that I heard, I found it quite, it stuck to my mind when an elder told me, imagine how many Imagine how many people skip dessert during dinner on the Titanic. It kind of I got a visual because it really didn't matter at that point in time whether to have that dessert or not. So it's quite that's where we are. Started playing musical chairs on the Titanic. Doesn't matter where we end up. So as far as our First Nation communities is concerned, we really need to look towards the spiritual teachers, the elders, to try and begin to find out who we are, so that we may survive. We may make it far enough to see our children and their children get to another level. Hopefully they see the world in a better condition than what we've left it for them. So it's kind of futile to try to make a model community when we need to make a model world before we all, in order for us to all get through it, I guess. So, but as far as our history is concerned, there's a lot of talk about truth and reconciliation. But in order for you to reconcile, you need to, first of all, reconcile. You need to understand and accept some of the truths that need to be examined. And Canada has to do that. Canada has to go back. If they're sincere, they need to revisit those treaties and the agreements that were signed and what they owe, I guess, to the First Nations people of this continent. Agreements were made, and but they weren't honored. We are still living in probably some of the worst conditions in any community in Canada. We have the highest alcohol and drug abuse. Excuse me. We have the highest suicide rates. We have, just really a lot of our people live in third world conditions. We live in small parcel size tracts of land, and those things need to be fixed. Those things need to. We need to begin to right those wrongs that were committed to our people. A lot of people don't want to hear that. A lot of even government would just throw money at the situation, but money is not going to fix that. We need to do more than that. We need to make a concentrated effort on how to really fix those problems that exist in our communities. And I'll maybe touch base a little bit later on as far as the treaties is concerned. That's it for now.
Thank you for sharing that, Brian. And you are always welcome back on the podcast to share more about that, and we could do a deep dive on all of that. There's a lot of questions I'd like to ask. I heard David tell me once, and I don't know if this is the right number, but it was something like there was 992 treaties made, and we, or the non-natives, broke 990 of them, which is probably accurate. And so you shared a lot there to definitely think about. And I wanted to welcome Jacqueline, who's come in and kind of slotted in for David. Jacqueline is one of probably the most knowledgeable teachers as far as the STAR teachings and what David has been sharing and teaching and traveling and with the stories. She's also his wife and an amazing human in herself. So Jacqueline, do you want to just introduce yourself and say hello?
Sure. Hello. Yeah, my name is Jacqueline Olet Senapass. I live in southern Maine. Can you hear me? Yeah. We live in southern Maine. David and I live in Cumberland. We were listening to some of what Carlos was saying and recognized some of that story in the STAR teachings and the Copper Scrolls. I wanted to share a little bit about 2012 and what happened here in Maine. For us, there were so many people that were terrified that the world was going to end, and they were looking for any kind of spiritual group or somebody that knew something, somebody that had a bit of hope to grab onto. So people started to congregate out of fear and wanting to be together and not knowing what was going to happen. Hollywood had, the big hype and all the news channels, and so people were really afraid. It was 2012 when David first started sharing to the non-natives. It was in January 17th, 2012, when he first really started sharing the star teachings. It crossed the threshold to the non-natives at that time, and he first publicly spoke in July to over, I think it was around 200 people. With that speak, he invited people then to this woman's home to have tea, and he began sharing more of the teachings. So the people started coming and gathering and interested in what these teachings were. It was very unusual for any of these spiritual teachings to be shared so openly and inviting people in to listen to them. Everybody was welcome. Where we are in Maine, it's like even in the schools today, they tell the children that the natives aren't here anymore. They don't exist, and that is still what my daughter is hearing in kindergarten. So growing up with that idea, David is coming into this culture to share. The second speak that he did in, I think it was August of 2012, the title was Beyond the Feather and the Drums, A Spiritual Path. And what David was teaching about is something for all people, trying to get over the stereotypes of what that spirituality might be, in the hopes that we can all work together across all cultures, across the whole world. So we have to break through a lot of barriers, a lot of stereotypes, so that we can do that. And so David would speak, and people would come expecting something that they'd seen in the movies, some kind of spirituality that they maybe saw somewhere else or depicted somewhere. And then they would come and they'd see David speak, and he has short hair. He wears a white shirt. He wears black pants. And, he's pretty simple. He doesn't have a lot of tools with him. He uses his voice to deliver the teachings and the message. And so people would come, and without all the extra stuff, they were able to listen and to experience that vibration and to experience the community together. And so over between July and December 21st, 2012, he did 7 speaks, and the community gathered in smaller groups for teas to listen and to learn. And on December 21st, 2012, there was a big event, and this would be the first time that any of the teachers, the elders from the Mi'kmaq came down from Canada to share openly to non-natives. We met, they told us to meet at the beach by the ocean, and that day it was rainy. It's unusual because usually it's snowing here during that period of winter, but it was raining, it was windy, it was stormy, all the power went out across the state, and of course that added to the chaos that people were feeling about this end of the world. So the power's out, and all kinds of wind and storm and floods, and we went to meet at the beach and wait, and there was a water ceremony, and many of us gathered on the beach to be there together, and we waited, and it rained harder and harder, and at first we're like, yes, and then everybody starts getting wet, and they're getting soaked, and they're like looking at their clocks, and well, this was supposed to start at 11, and it's 11:30, so people, some people left, and some people got too cold, and but those of us that stayed, there was between 30 and 40, huddled up into a circle, and we're like, well, we're here together, and this is the ceremony. Like, we got out of the warm houses, we're out here doing something. We don't know what we're doing, but we're doing this together. And then, they came. Donna Augustine came and shared a song with us right by the ocean. The waves, the water were really like interacting with her song. She was standing out on this rock, and I was afraid that she would get taken out to sea because these waves are way up over her head, and she was singing, and it was just an incredible moment. After that, we were soaked, and we went to the bigger event, which happened to be inside. It was the only building in Portland, Maine that had power. I don't know how. We had some lights, and we had a celebration. David had said, let's celebrate the end of the world. That's the day that we want to get together and celebrate. And so close to 400 people got together on that stormy night, with very little power. And we heard those teachings. Those teachings were delivered to this community. It was an incredible night. It changed a lot. It shifted a whole community here. After that the community began sharing the teachings even more and coming together. And it was said that there was actually the blue light that was seen over Falmouth, Maine, where we had been gathering. So it was an incredible time, and that was all because David crossed that threshold and was able to share, and the community was listening to those teachings. After December 21st, 2012, the teachings kind of exploded out into different communities. So it went all the way down the East Coast, down to North Carolina, and then back up into Canada. The teachings are for all people. So they're, based in kindness and community, building community, and what we can do, despite language differences, despite beliefs, differences in beliefs, despite differences in spirituality, we can all come together and speak that same language of kindness as a base. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that, just on a little bit of history on where the STAR teachings crossed that threshold and how we got here today.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's fascinating to hear Brian talk about the language and just really let that sink in about a word that would maybe last 20,000 years and then all of a sudden not exist anymore. And Carlos has shared a little bit about that too, about that history and this culture and way of living. And the direction it seems we're going is, how do we make this work for everyone? I can say from my view of being a non-native that when I look at the government, I don't trust it. And my research is, just showed that like, there's not really an interest in cooperation. It's more an interest in conquest. And it seems like we're a planet of conquest. And if you were an intelligent species looking down at the human species, it seems that there are groups of people, or history has just shown that we're very violent and we want to conquest and we want to control. And we need to make this leap into peace. We need to make this leap into cooperation, and we need to make this leap into just some very simple fundamentals of leaving those prejudices, those differences aside. And I was going to ask Carlos. Carlos, can you hear me? I might have to wait for you to come back in. We lost him again.
Papa, ¿estás ahí? Papa?
He'll probably.
I'll try to communicate with him.
Okay, I'll send it to Brian. But Brian, I think like I'll just say, if I were in your shoes, I don't think I would have very much faith in the government to want to create a communication and a way that it was mutually beneficial, like in a very real way. Maybe that's not true. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it's going to come from them. my question would be, what do you think that we could do to move towards peace and understanding in the world? Do you think planetary peace would be possible when we have these atrocities happening, like, right in Canada, when it's supposed to be the second or first or third best place to live in the world, whatever it is, but then we're doing things like this? It seems pretty crazy to me. Can you share a little bit about what you would say we could do to move towards world peace, and maybe a little bit about your own personal spiritual understanding, if you want to take one or both of those questions?
Well, I think it's possible, but I think it has to come from the people themselves. Politics is a different creature, I guess. Politics is an entity that has no heart, no conscience, no feelings. That's why they incorporate, so they can do the things that are being done. So the peace that you talk about is possible. We must begin, as I said earlier, we must begin with ourselves, being at peace with ourselves. And that spreads. We have to spread that. The thing with I'd like to stress is a lot of times I hear people refer to native spirituality, and they look towards that to be part of the salvation, I guess. But it isn't only native spirituality. It's just spirituality. So everybody has that. And everybody has it within themselves. And they have to look within themselves in order for them to find themselves. Until that happens, we are just grasping at straws and trying to find answers from external sources. So I think that's a humanity thing that we need to understand. The politics is, I don't know what the end goal is, because I don't think there is an end goal. It's just a machine that keeps going, and a lot of times they disguise it as progress, economic salvation. But where does that bring us? What does that do for us as human beings? When you look at the human emotion and the human being human, I guess, and it's not, life isn't really that difficult. It's us that makes it complicated. So we need to simplify that, and we need to begin to look at it like as humankind first, and we can't rely on government to save us, because it's not going to happen. So it's really it always goes back to us, who we are as human beings, and what are we willing to do to help solve that global problem, because it is a global problem. It doesn't matter who we reach out to try to save us, because it's going to take all of us. In our culture, they say we have 4 sacred colors that represent all of humankind, and each one of those colors has a responsibility to look after a certain element in life. But not one color and not one nation can save everybody. It has to be done holistically, and it has to be done by everybody. So I think that's where we have to start, is with ourselves, and see what it is that we are willing to accept, and at what point do we say it's enough, So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but it's a little bit about my spirituality, I guess.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that all of those were really great insights. And Carlos, when you cut off, I don't know if you could hear the original question. I was going to address it to you as well. The question was, how do we move towards peace? And maybe if you could share a little bit about your spiritual understanding of being here on Earth.
La pregunta que te hizo Matt, no sé si la entendiste, es que cómo nos movemos hacia la paz y estemos aquí en la Tierra para mejorar pues la situación de la humanidad, ¿verdad?
Okay. This is a very difficult question because many people talk about peace. Everybody try to have a relation in peace, but if we don't have the peace inside us, what are we talking about? If we don't respect the plants, the animals, the trees, the nature, Mother Nature, the river, the lakes, all the creation, what we can do? We can think, oh, I am a very ecologist. I don't make many trash and I don't do that, but we paid attention to don't destroy, to affecting the big companies, the people to really contaminate the Mother Earth. We don't make nothing. I don't see some ones for some reason, but because they have a little consciousness. But finally, there is not a real purpose. Just when we beginning, the economy is going to be crashed. When the environment is completely affected, in this moment, we are going to begin to change. And that's very sad because we need to put our mind. We can create. Yeah, I don't remember if we talked the other day about the race of the creation. In the Popol Vuh says in the beginning there is a completely peace and calm. Everything is dark. There are no light, and in a moment arrive from I don't know where arrive a ray who broke the structure of the ether, and this element create the reality. And there are four different rays: the Chipika Kulha, who is the small ray; the Rashka Kulha, who is the green ray, who is the Mother Earth environment, the everything who is green, who is the water, who is the animals and the plants. This is Rashka Kulha. Kakulha is the ray. Nim Kakulha is the ray of the big house. Of the big house, we never are completely according, but do I think, this is my personal vision, is the Mother Earth. We don't have any idea what's big, what's in the immensity of Mother Earth. When we are going in an airplane, we just can see a little percent. I think so. It's not more than, I think it's 40, 30, no, sorry, 13 or 14% of the Mother Earth, and this is nothing. We don't understand what so big is it. So this is This is Nimka Kulha, the creation, our home when we live, and we need to be in contact with this creation, believe in it, feel it, be part of this creation. And the far right is Hunrakakun Kakulha. Hun is one, Ra is leg, and Kan is serpent. The serpent of one leg. Okay, it sounds like hurricane, but because this word came from this Hunrakan. So the important is like when the NASA sent the Hubble telescope and they make a research of all the universe, they say to us, to the people, like all the things who exist in the universe, who has a material form, that's meaning the planets, the comets, the galaxies, metagalaxies, exist in a big worm that they call a worm. This is Hundrakanka Kulha. It's something like if we don't have the capacity to understand the magnificence of Mother Earth, less likely we have this ability to perceive the Milky Way or perceive this part of the universe. But the most important ray is the first one, Chip Kakulha or Chipi Kakulha. This is the small ray. And when I begin to learn to read about the quantum physical, I think, but I know about it. In some place I read, I learn about it, and I say, this is not in the school. They don't teach these things. And I think, oh, maybe my elder, my master, he teach me. And I went to for my notes. He was angry when I know something because he said that we need to have the capacity of in our mind to remember everything. But in this moment, I saw in my notes like the same like they said is exactly the same like the quantum physics said. And this is the synapses, with the neuronal capacity, the electrochemical rays to connect one neurona with another. This is the Chipika Kulha, the capacity to create. But this, we can create the reality, not just our own reality, the reality of everybody. And we can change if everybody are in the action to understand, to learn, and to take the action of for to do that, we can create these capacities. So this is a way. This is one of the elders said. If you create the reality, if you think, if you believe in, you create this reality in your mind, you can create in this reality, this thing that we call reality. So this is one step to believe and to create the peace. Don't confrontate. We don't need to demonstrate nothing to anyone. This is like my elder said. You don't need to demonstrate nothing. You are not the best or the baddest. You are a being and you have a reason to be here. And that's as we need to understand. To be here is a big purpose. Just is a gift. This reality doesn't finish here because it's an illusion. But this illusion is part of the creation. It's part of the big master who created the reality. So what is our thing now is to be in this wave of the peace, of the harmony, of the understanding. That's what we need to do. That is really easy, but sounds easy, but nobody take attention. Nobody take the determination and the decision. Because when we are affected by the economical things, we forget everything. We are interested in material things. That's the way. So I remember in the Popol Vuh, he said, this is not the first humanity. There are three humanities before like this one. And they was destroyed for his big ego, for they don't have attention to the deities. They don't live in harmony with and Mother Earth. And Mother Earth is going to pass also without us, or with a new generation of humans. But we have the opportunity because we arrived to the 2012 and we crossed la barrera. La barrera, mi amor.
The border.
Okay, we crossed the border. And in the 2012, we are part of the new humanity. And sounds terrific to I explained like in this period is very dangerous. We can destroy the environment, the most of Mother Earth. And it's not necessary to be a prophet Everybody can see what we are doing with our Mother Earth, what we are doing with our own self, because we don't respect ourselves. If we don't respect our own person, how the other beings or the other things asking for a respect if we don't have this respect? That the elders are try to, we have the attention and we can beginning to understand and to share and to send vibration of peace, of love, and understanding. We are in a period of the wisdom is real. Now is the period of the wisdom. If we beginning to work with the knowledge to transform into the wisdom, we're going to have any problem. But we expect that many of the people understand and believe and stop the destruction. That's it. But it's easy, but it's necessary to take the decision. Because first, like any action, we can see our pocket, how much do I have. We think that we are like we have inside in money, not in our heart, no, in our mind. So we need to change this. That's it, Matt. That's how the elders teaching for this period. Return to be humans. Yeah?
Well, thank you for sharing all that. It reminds me of this little meme I saw today that doesn't have all that information, but it showed just a picture of an old, what I would like Native American village. And it said something along the lines that obviously they posed a threat to the system or whatever words they called it, because they didn't require money to do anything. They had community, they had connection with the earth, and they had the means to have everything. So they didn't need money. And when you talk about money changes things, right? Once the economy comes into it, people lose their heart, they lose their virtues. And David's talked about that quite a bit himself, where he'll just talk about, you know, oh, you want change, but when it affects the wallet or when you actually have to do something, the story changes pretty quick. And it's a reality that we kind of live in right now. And I have heard word that Clifford is trying to get on, so that's very exciting. Hopefully we'll get Clifford at the end. I'm waiting for him to pop in, and when he pops in, I'll introduce him. And in the meantime, I wanted to ask David if you either wanted to comment on anything that you've heard, or yeah, do you want to make a comment? Want to chime in? If you do, you're on mute. You're on mute right now, David. Hold on. I'll let you know when I can hear you. I'm trying to unmute you. Maybe you have to do it yourself. Why won't it let me? You got to unmute yourself, David.
You can on the microphone because it's off.
How's that?
You're in the game.
Perfect. I think reality, what we look at and all the things that's out there, I hear this a lot, world peace, let's be peace, 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 peace. I don't think we really want peace as much as we talk about it and everything else. You know, it's a great subject. You know, we march for peace. We want this for peace and that. And between the 32,000 years that we've been here, we really hadn't had peace. There's wars upon wars upon wars, and still there's wars, and we still talk about that elusive peace. What does that look like anyway? You know, I was thinking the other day, we had like a Black Friday, and if Black Friday was peace, at least we have 1% of it, because you know we go out 1 o'clock in the evening to look for a sale, to get half off on a TV, to get half. If that was peace, we'll have it. Maybe we should sell peace and make a discount for it or something, because then at least we know what we're looking for. But you know, I'm not much person for love. You know, love thy neighbor, they love thyself. It sounds really great. It sounds good. I hear it in a lot of the talks that I go out in. You know, love this, love that, and like we've been doing that for the last 2,000 years, and it has not worked. there's at least 58,000 books written about love and how to love and things like that. We have not did one of those yet. Not one. And we love, I don't even know my neighbors here. Do I love them? Probably not. I don't know them. I know that when we're on the road, we're driving. I'm not the best driver. If you driven with me, I am not the best driver in the world. Sometimes I'm thinking France, I want to drive on the other side of the road. Other people don't agree with that. So they usually tell me through sign language or something like that. But, is that peace? Is that loving your neighbor? I call it road rage, but it's like anything else. It's like, no. And when I go out there to talk, most of the times if I have a big audience, most of the audience walk out on me because I start talking about love. I said, love does not exist. And they say, yes, it does. So they walk out on me. So, see, I proved it. And they walked out. So why do I say that? It's because we talk about peace, but we don't do it. We don't do anything, we send our young people to go kill other people. We have a constitution that says that we all equal. We're not equal, honestly. As do we have equal rights? No, we don't. Do we have equal economics? No, we don't. Do we have equal spirituality? No, we don't. But it's hard to get into this world and say all this. I go to a lot of lectures and stuff like that. People sound great up there. They're good. But it costs a lot of money to go see these people. It's like $400 or $500 to go align your chakras or something like that. It's like, it does not do us one good. It doesn't provide peace. It doesn't do it. It's providing somebody income, yes, but it's not what we're looking. We're looking in the wrong direction. Sometimes we look for the elders. I believe the elders have part of the answer, but not all of it. In order to square dance, you need to be round. And people don't realize that, is that we need a partner to dance with. We need somebody to communicate peace with. It's like, in my culture, if you look on TV and the internet, and the drums and feathers and all that, that's great. It's great. We're culturally sound that way, but spiritually, we're not sound. I don't even have peace with myself. How can I have peace with anybody else or even talk about it? I think that because I'm a mathematician, so I monitor peace on the earth. It's like there's a math program that I invented so I can figure out every 90 days how much peace we had. The last 90 days, we had peace for 2 minutes on this earth. Just 2 minutes. That's it. Now, what are we looking for? A million-man march again? This machine should give us peace because the computers were designed to help the humans cope in this world, to solve complicated math problems, complicated problems. It does. Just watching today, it's over 1 billion calculations every 2 minutes this machine is making. How does that benefit us? Maybe the information that we're receiving? Could be. But like everything else is that if we are communicating with the dead, which I'm still trying to figure out how they do that, it has to be informational. If we are communicating with our ancestors, it has to be informational. If we are channeling, it has to be informational. It can't be vague. There's a lot of people out there that say they're channeling with the aliens. Great, that's great. Tell us the world peace secret, or tell us some information that we can use. There's a lot of, I'm telling you, a great friend, is like, I say it in Mi'kmaq, so I wouldn't offend me. There's a lot of crap out there that we're believing is not true, And here we are trying to figure out our direction. We're trying to figure out world peace. We're trying to figure out love. We're trying to figure out that. And the copper scrolls, I started really trying to decode them 40 some odd years ago. It took me almost 7 years just to come up with one of the answers. And one of the spiritual secrets they give you, the first teaching is kindness, not love. There's not love mentioned in the copper scroll. I can't find it anywhere. It's kindness to yourself. And once you learn how to be kind to yourself, you will learn how to be kind to your children, your wife, the people around you. But we have not achieved that yet. I know that I go out there in the world and people say, oh, I want to come and see David Sonnemus and start teaching. So, well, you should clean crap out of the ears first. The Creator gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. That means we got to listen twice when we speak. That's part of the teachings, but we don't do that. First time I meet people, they want to tell me how wise they are. Not really, I don't really care. It's just like, let's have a cup of tea together, or something like that. But, you know, if you're so wise, help us on this road of peace. Help us to be kind to each other. But I don't really see that in the world. A lot of the times I talk in, is there a God? I mean, somebody came to see me that took them months to come and see me. Say, I have a question for you. And they finally come and see me and they offer me tobacco and, oh, you're so honorable and stuff like that. I said, is there a God? So you come halfway across the world to ask me if there's a God? And they say, yeah. He said, I want to know the truth. Okay, no. No, that's not that easy. There must be a philosophy question there somewhere. I said, no, there's no God. You're the God. You're the perception of your own reality. And people just said, no, there must be somebody that made that flower. The flower was made by a reality that you just notice the flower, it's there. But you have to ask the right questions. And people, you know, have a misinterpretation who we are here. You know, am I a wisdom keeper? Well, only if you take the advice, you know. My father used to tell me, he says, if you're going to be a canoe maker, you should learn how to make canoes. You shouldn't be the philosophy of canoes. Your canoe should float. It shouldn't sink on you. You should be able to know how to make that canoe. And most of us don't. We're all the interpretations of how to make a canoe, never made one in the entire life. Same in this seat that I'm sitting in today, that you have to go out and talk. You have to meet people. You have to be able to get down on your hands and knees and get your hands dirty to help the people out there. You know, I tell people that I don't like doing this. I'm not a public speaker, but it's like anything else. It's like somebody needs to do it. Somebody needs to try to seek what that truth is and try to understand what that is. So I'm going to quit talking right now because we had an honored elder amongst us. So I'll leave it up to you, Matt.
Thank you for sharing, David, and welcome, Clifford Mahouty. It is good to see you. How are you? You are just on mute, so what I'll ask is we've had a great discussion so far. It's great to see you. Do you want to just introduce yourself and share a little bit about who you are and whatever else you'd like to share? Hold on, you're still on mute, Clifford. Let me see if I can unmute you. It won't let me. Nope, bottom left. I'll tell you when I can hear you. There's a little microphone button if you look at the bottom left and you click it up. There you go. I think you got it.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Clifford.
My name is Clifford Mahouty. I am a Zuni Indian, and I have been working with this type of subjects for some time. I'm a retired civil engineer, and I belong to the orders of the Zuni, Kachina, Medicine Order, and Clan System of Zuni, New Mexico.
Is that all you want to share?
Well, I just finally got on. I don't know how much was covered, but I just want to bring you up to. I've been doing a lot of lectures all summer, primarily about the.
Oh, we might have lost you, Clifford.
Lost you again?
Yeah, we got you again now. Lost the video,
Okay.
but I can hear you. There we go. Gotcha.
I can see the others. I guess it's okay.
Yeah, we can see. We gotcha.
Anyway, I've been working with this type of subjects for some time, and it's been kind of been a sort of a rough ride, because it's very hard to relay information from your own tribe to the rest of the world, the outside world, away from the Indian people. And first of all, I've been treated with suspicion a lot of these information that I have been doing for the last, well, just about all my life. I just recently went to a ceremony 2 days ago on Thanksgiving Day, and I was kind of asked to leave because I am putting out information that is not uh, probably in the way that the Zuni people want to be have their information put out to the world. So, but that does not disappoint me. That does.
Clifford, I think we lost you again.
Yeah,
There we go.
I don't know if it's my computer or what, but I don't
Well,
know.
you're
But I've been trying to convey some information about a lot of Pueblo people, about my tribe, and other related groups throughout the North and South America, Central America, Mexico, and so on. But it's been very tough because people are not used to being open about a lot of their background, about their history. And it's gotten to the point where a lot of information is being lost on a daily basis. So people like myself and other people that pursue this information, it's become difficult every day because of the internet. The people in Zuni believe that I am putting out information which is not true, which is very bad for the information that was derived or gained by others. And but I have always said that this information has been out there for over 100 years. All I'm doing is that I'm putting the information together for the next generation and the younger people because our present system does not allow for information transfer of what they have been, what we were taught in the old days. So it's been difficult. 2 or 3 months. I've been attacked because of the internet, and so they believe that I'm putting out information which is supposed to be, I guess, secret. In my opinion and my background, there's no secrecy. And the other thing too is that we're not being open-minded anymore. We're not conveying information in an honest and truthful way, and the integrity of a lot of these teachings are lost every day. And we have become little camps within our own Indian tribes, primarily because of jealousy, because one person says another information to others, and
lost you again, Clifford.
yeah, it's very difficult using computer. I don't know whether it's my machine or whatever it is. Uh, can you see me again?
We
But
got you back. Yep. Please continue.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is right now because I'm not gifted in that area about electronic stuff. So anyway, that's basically what's happening. And it's kind of a disappointment in a way, but I'm already in on it. I mean, I've done this type of work already for years, and I'm only doing this because my elders, which are no longer with us, had picked me up as a child to start teaching me about some of the things that will happen in the future. And they needed a spokesperson, I believe, at that time. And so that's all I'm doing. I'm not doing this for fame or monetary gain or ego or anything. It's just a fact that the younger generation needs some information of how to be part of the world, because we are losing it every day. This the whole world is in chaos. There's no more there's no more compassion. There's no more kindness. There's no more respect of each other's, not only people, but the things that we had been taught for thousands of years. And we're in a crash right now, and so we need information that has to be carried on to the next generation, or at least that they'll have some idea of what it was. Right now, the books that I have studied for just about all my life, there's a lot of information in there that are not true. And this because it was put by an outside source, which in this case were writers from the Smithsonian people, the universities, some writers, and all I'm trying to do is correct some of the information because I'm part of the system. And that's what I'm doing.
Are you finished, Clifford? I couldn't tell because you broke up at the end.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Well,
I don't.
well, hopefully you'll stay. At least you're able to keep coming back in. We'll deal with it, and it's great that you could show up and share a little bit. I find it, on that topic, I find it very interesting, and I'll give it over to you guys to hear your thoughts. But from studying with David, a little bit with Brian and Clifford, you guys have shared that not all of the communities in which you come from, the Zuni or the Mi'kmaq, want to share this with the non-natives. Part of that reason is probably because the history on our side is terrible, and all of that history is just terrible. So they're probably upset with us, and it's also sacred information and sacred knowledge to your people. So I don't know if I even want to phrase a question or if you guys want to share on that. Or what I wanted to ask is, we've kind of talked for a while. Does anybody else want to direct the direction of what we should talk about, or ask a question? No?
Yeah.
I could talk to you guys all day and sit here and learn. I'm happy to direct, but I wanted to make sure that if you guys had a direction, then feel free to take it. It's interesting because I talked to Clifford, and he talks about the prophecy of the fifth son, right? Fifth or sixth, Clifford, and moving into this new world, and talking to Carlos, and he talks about the Mayan calendar and moving into these new times. And David's history, he kind of wraps that all together in a different way. And so it seems like there's a lot of these similarities. What do you guys, I'll direct this for anybody. I will say, from my point of view, when I started researching, I didn't understand how we had war. It didn't make any sense to me. I didn't understand how there was so much suppression on the planet. I don't understand that to this day. I don't understand how we can be an intelligent species, but it looks like there's so much of what we are doing that's destroying the planet, that's killing each other, and it just doesn't make sense. And it's this monetary system that is in place that is a big part of that. And there's organizations and all these different things that exist that are not cultivating cooperation and evolution. And would anybody like to comment on what they feel we can do or should do to move forward in a more positive and united way? It's kind of like the world peace question, but phrased differently. Do you want me to direct that at somebody, or does somebody want to comment? Carlos, are you talking? Because you're on mute if you are.
Ayúdame a traducirme.
There you go.
Ok. Yo solo quiero agradecer el espacio, Matt. Agradecer a David, a Brian y pues ahora a Clifford. por compartir su conocimiento, su sabiduría, su experiencia. Para nosotros es muy valioso, muy, muy valioso, porque eso nos alimenta, nos da, perdón, Solveig. Okay.
He just wants to thank everybody. He wants to thank David, and he wants to thank you, man. And now Clifford just joined us, and he feels like this, all of this knowledge and everything we have talked to me is so valuable. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sí, de verdad, a nosotros nos toca, pues, por lo menos orientar a la humanidad.
It is our duty to at least, guide humanity.
No. Yo me acuerdo que yo escribí en el libro del destino, escribí algo acerca del destino del hombre maya.
I remember that when I wrote the Book of Destiny, I wrote something about the destiny of the Maya men.
Y una vez me preguntó una periodista española,
And there was this one time that a Spanish journalist asked me,
y me decía, oye Carlos, ¿qué nos van a decir ustedes a nosotros para corregir, para recuperar, para salvar la madre tierra?
and she asked, can you tell me, what do you guys want to tell us? And what are you going to teach us on how to recover and how to save Mother Earth and everything we have done?
¿Qué vamos a hacer? ¿Qué van a hacer ustedes para cambiar las cosas?
And what are you guys going to do to change this problem?
Y yo le dije, no es que vamos a hacer los mayas, no es que vamos a hacer todas las naciones nativas, no solo de América, sino del mundo. Es que vamos a hacer como humanidad. Eso estamos hablando en el 95, cuando ella me preguntó, no, perdón, eso fue en el 2002, cuando ella me preguntó. Digo, esto es un propósito de todos los seres humanos.
So she asked him that, and he said, no, it's not what we are going to do. The Maya people is not what the indigenous people are going to do, not only in all of America, but in all of the world. It is about what we are going to do, what all of humanity is going to do. She asked me that in 2002, and that's what I answered.
Sí, no es un propósito de la comunidad indígena, de la comunidad nativa.
It's not the duty of the natives or of the indigenous community.
Es una responsabilidad de todos los seres humanos.
It is the responsibility of all of the human beings.
Y como diría mi maestro, los pueblos nativos son los que menos destruyen y menos contaminan. Respetamos la vida en todas sus formas.
And like my teacher used to say, the native people and indigenous people are the ones that destroy the least and contaminate the least. We respect life in all of its forms.
Entonces, si no vamos juntos de la mano, pues estamos complicados.
But the thing is, if we don't go hand by hand, all of us, then the thing is going to get complicated.
Y mi maestro decía, los que más contamina es la gente occidental.
My teacher used to say that the people that pollute the most are the Western people.
Ahí donde empiezan los cambios.
And there's where the change should begin.
Pero mi maestro decía, el problema es que son como niños.
And my teacher used to say the problem is that they are like kids, like children.
Como niños malcriados.
Like rascal, naughty children.
Entonces, es un enorme trabajo. Como les decía antes, la idea es crear la conciencia en nosotros mismos para poderla difundir.
And so it's going to be a long way. But like I was saying before, the idea is to create consciousness inside of ourselves first, so we can share that later with everybody else.
Y de una vez aprovecho, Max, y a todos. El año entrante estamos organizando, ya empezamos a organizar el segundo encuentro de ancianos del continente.
And so, taking the opportunity that we are all here, he also wants to say that next year he is organizing already the second encounter of indigenous people of all of the continent.
Y como lo hicimos en el 95, pues en el 95 vinieron 300 abuelos y abuelas de toda América.
And we are going to do something just like we did in 1995, where we gathered 300 elders, male and female, from all of America.
Continente.
All of the continent, America. Yeah.
Y estamos con la intención de volver a juntarnos.
And now the same thing again and bring people together.
Y la idea es hacer un llamado urgente al ser humano.
And the idea of making this gathering will be to make an urgent calling to all of humanity.
Para que se tome la conciencia y que trabajemos en realidad para salvar a la Madre Tierra.
So that people take consciousness and that we really start working for real to save the Mother Earth.
Y un día le pregunté a don Pascual, mi maestro.
One day I asked my teacher, Don Pascual.
Y yo le dije, ¿y si no logramos ponernos de acuerdo? Si no podemos detener la destrucción, la contaminación, ¿qué vamos a hacer?
And I asked him what's going to happen if all of us, all of humanity, can't get to an agreement. What will happen if we cannot stop the destruction, the pollution? What are we going to do then?
Y él me dijo, pues en ese caso lo único que queda es desaparecer.
Well, and he's...
Dale.
And he said, in that case, the only thing that there is left to do is to disappear.
Y bueno, esperamos que con el poco tiempo que tenemos podamos cambiar, porque igual las profecías son muy claras.
And so, well, what we hope is that with the few time that we have, we manage to actually change, because the prophecies are very clear.
Y si no lo hacemos todos como humanidad, pues va a sobrevivir un porcentaje pequeño, no tan pequeño, pero algo como el 20%. A mí no me gusta dar números, pero algo por ahí de la humanidad va a sobrevivir.
Because if we don't unite as a humanity and we don't all together, a big percentage of the humanity will end up disappearing. I don't like to give numbers, but perhaps something around 20% will be left.
¿No? Entonces, el llamado es a tomar responsabilidad y a comunicar a todo el mundo. Esa es la idea de este congreso, de esta reunión.
So the idea of making this meeting, all of us together, is to call humanity to take consciousness and to take responsibility.
Y les quiero decir que ya hay gente de los Iroquois, hay gente de los Navajos, de los Hopis, de diferentes pueblos de los tarahumaras, de los huicholes, de los mexicas, de los Chiapas, de toda Guatemala y Centroamérica, y del sur, de los incas, de los aymaras, de los cayaguayas, de todos los grandes abuelos. Ya hay gente con el interés de venir y están promoviendo cómo trasladarse. Así es que la invitación es para ustedes tres, pues David, Clifford y Brian, y en especial para vos, Matt.
So we have already confirmed a lot of people that are going to come to this, you know, from the Navajos, from the every
Wise copies. Okay.
what he said, and and so what he wants to do is he wants to invite three of you, you know, David, Brian, and Clifford, and especially you, Matt. So to come to this gathering, so we can all share
El otro
that.
mes voy a tener una reunión para fijar una fecha.
He has a meeting next month to give the date for this gathering.
Pero también queremos traer por lo menos 200 abuelos y abuelas.
But again, we want to do the same thing that we did in 95 and bring at least 200 elders, female and male.
Y
Females and males.
juntos mandaron un comunicado a la humanidad.
And all of us together send this message to humanity.
Ok, bueno, yo estoy muy agradecido del espacio, de verlos, de conocerlos. Muchas gracias.
And he just wants to say that he is super grateful for being here and sharing the space and to see you and to meet all of you. And thank you very much for that.
Finished? Awesome. Carlos, thank you so much for sharing all that. It would be an honor to come to a gathering like that and learn and be a part of it. And I'm open to helping as much as I can. When I first met David and he was sharing some of his history and his teachings, and he said, I need some help. And I thought to myself, well, how come people have never heard this? I don't know where I could go find this history and understand it. And there's a quote that says history is recorded by the winners and the winners of the war. And I understand my history and what I was taught in schools, but also in doing research, I realized that there's a lot of missing information. There's a lot of things that aren't true. There's a lot of things that are skewed. And what I find fascinating about you guys is having, you know, I met you all independently and saying that your history is over 20,000 years old. And that kind of blows my mind. And it's very fascinating. It's also fascinating that it's oral. And I feel like I don't know much of anything, but I'm open to learning. And I feel like there should be a bridge between all cultures to understand their history, their people, their way of life, and honor that, whether it's indigenous, whether it's European, whether it's wherever you come from in the world, to cultivate that understanding so that we can learn to exist in this planet in peace and learn from each other and grow. And so it'd be an honor to come and an honor to support and an honor to help. Same with Clifford, you know, helping, you know, just promote his message and do a little bit of traveling and speaking with him and David. To watch them speak versus watching other people speak, it's just, it's a different thing. They come from a whole different place and a whole different lineage and have such incredible wisdom to share. But I want to honor the time. I know it's been a couple hours. I would gladly sit here all day, but I don't know how much energy that you guys have and what you have going on. So what I'll do is I'll go around and I guess open the floor for closing thoughts. And at the end of those closing thoughts, if somebody wants to share more or ask more questions, I'll stay as long as necessary. But I know that you guys have a lot to share, so that could end up taking some time. I don't know if it'll be brief or very long. So we'll give it a try and see how it goes. But I guess I'll invite Brian first, if you want to just share any closing thoughts, and that's it.
Well, I think we have so much to talk about, and the issues are so broad that it's hard to pinpoint an area where we all have uh, where we can focus on an opinion. We can easily have a 5-hour session here, and it's but I think the bottom line is how do we deal with one another as humanity? And I think humanity keeps coming up in the conversation. No matter what issues an area, an indigenous area, an indigenous community has, it's always has to do with how do we deal with the issue. And I don't think we can ever resolve that, or I don't think we can ever come up with one answer. But I think we have to keep striving and looking for answers. There's so much history, and so much time has passed that we are very far away from the actual truths of humanity, and we have to find the answers. And one thing I've learned recently is that there are a lot of clues, there are a lot of answers. And an area that I've been looking at recently is the messages that are in stones. There are a lot of answers there. And an elder told me recently that the stones were used to depict the messages because they're going to be here a lot longer than we are. And that's why they were used in the past, because we have uncovered messages from 4,000 years ago, at least 4,000 years ago. So I think that's an area where we can all begin to look. And we need to believe in our prayers, our spirituality. We need to believe in signs, because signs are really markers, I guess, to guide us and assure us that the path we are taking is the right one. Some people don't believe in them signs. A lot of people basically just live day to day. But I think we need to live in a holistic manner for us to truly live a life of purpose, a life of service. A lot of people depend on us. A lot of people depend on teachings, and we must strive to find the truth and to share the truth. I was going back to your statement about keeping things secret. I believe that a sacred ceremony will protect itself. So I don't see any harm in sharing a lot of these, I guess, information on ceremonies. But the actual practice of ceremony will protect itself, and it's done so for thousands of years. So I myself am willing to, like David says, I really don't. I really know very little, but what I do know, I'm willing to share. And these teachings were not meant for just for me or just for my people. I think they were meant to be shared. And if it benefits everybody, then I think that's for the greater good. And that's all I'll say for now. And and I want to thank you all for being part of this. It's very interesting, and I think it's very much needed. And the discussion has to be ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, very much. I definitely am open to keeping this ongoing. I know it has to go way further beyond this. I just feel that when I speak to you guys, particularly, the conversations and the spirit behind it and the intention is what I feel needs to be ongoing into the communities all around. And, you know, I like David's analogy of Black Friday. He's also used the analogy of the Super Bowl. If we could be that excited about peace, you know, as we are in the Super Bowl or we are Black Friday, where we could be. So I agree with that. And thank you so much for coming, Brian. I appreciate you and your work. Solveig, do you want to add some closing thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I think my dad left already. But
No, he's back.
I mean, it's been, oh, okay. Well, it's been so great to be here, and I feel so grateful because I don't have so much to share myself, right? But just being able to be here and to sit here and listen to everybody, so many wise people, right? And you guys all have so many different things to say, but I think at the end, everybody's trying to say kind of the same thing, right? And it's just so interesting to get to see how we all have all different backgrounds, but at the end of the day, everybody's just trying to spread the same message to humanity, you know, and to just improve life, the world, and the way that human beings are, you know, just living and doing this whole reality thing. So that is just really interesting, and I feel honored to have been sharing with everybody here. And thank you so much, Matt, for putting this whole thing together, and everything else that you have done is sweet. I really appreciate it. I'm always watching your, you know, your podcast and your channel, and I think it's awesome how you're doing this and just getting all of this incredible people and just putting all of the knowledge together and just sharing it with the world. And I think that's amazing. So thank you for that. And thanks to everybody. And it was a pleasure to be here. And I hope to see all of you again and to learn more from all of you.
Well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for being such a wonderful interpreter and for the kind words. And as you were talking, it kind of made me think about, you know, this knowledge. And I know that some people in different places, no matter what the culture may be, they want to have that knowledge for themselves. And I think of like you know, coming here as a student, and I'm coming here as a student. And I think that we're all students, and the more that we share the information that's been useful and that's been helpful, we can learn from that. But if we don't have the opportunity to hear it, and that seems like so many people have such, you know, David will say beeswax in their ears or closed-minded or whatever the case is. And there's so much baloney out there, you know, going through all the rabbit holes of what I've done for trying to, let's say, connect to spirit or improve my consciousness, have the higher consciousness, all those things. Of all those rabbit holes, a lot of them came up empty, and a lot of them come with price tags, and a lot of them can steer people astray. And I feel like, you know, teachings that last 20,000 years, cultures that pass down these teachings, I think is very important. And hopefully some people have ears to hear and will be willing to listen. So I appreciate you being here and being a student and who you are, and thank you for interpreting. I'll invite Clifford to leave some closing thoughts. Clifford, I know you didn't get to share a lot, but we did have a lot. We have a podcast together. We have 2 of them. You're welcome to come back on and share more. I know that you want to do an episode on the casino mafia, but you are full of wisdom. You have a lot of your talks on YouTube, luckily. And so you share a lot of great information, and just wanted to open the floor to you to share whatever you wish as, you know, closing statements or whatever you feel you want to share at this time.
Well, the thing that I think what Carlos brought up about we've always had meetings that I'm familiar with for the last since the 60s, We have all these great meetings, and we come up with many solutions, but it just dies on the vine. I think one of the things that's happening right now is that we can no longer have these meetings and nothing happens. I think the last time when we were talking, Matt, was that we said I not only know the history of it, of what happened with them, especially the indigenous groups, and especially it pertains to the environment and the planet. But now there's a lot of people that are pretty well educated, not going to school or paper-wise, but I'm talking about actual spirituality, actually the connection to the earth consciousness and so on. That if we ever have those type of meetings together, we have to take it directly to those people that are in charge of our nations, in charge of our programs. We may have to sit out there on the lawn in front of the White House, or we may have to do like the Hopis did back in the 50s, going out there to the House of Glass and sit out there to warn them about atomic energy and the destruction that would cause it. But it's time that needs to happen because the world is in turmoil. And we have proceeded to both extremes. The people on one side that says global warming is going to kill us tomorrow morning and we're polluting the earth. Well, you know, every nation is at fault. Every person is at fault. And we just cannot blame any other group. So if we're going to have a summit like this with the elders and those people, because they're the ones that have the truth, they know the truth. But then what comes out of those meetings is that we actually have a place where we can take those uh, ideas or whatever that the group comes up with to say take action on it and give them some timelines. We want this answered. We want this taken care of. And if you cannot do that, also let us know that you cannot do that. So at least you have a record of these things. So this planet can no longer take on anything more than what we have done to it in the last 3,000 years. And we're at that verge. So I believe that that summit or that group meeting or whatever it becomes, it has to be put together in a way that it has to be enforced. So I'm all for that.
Thank you, Clifford. Thank you for being able to make it. I hope that you had a good day, and I always love talking to you and hearing from you. We'll definitely be in touch and appreciate your input on the panel. Really great ideas. And yeah, we'll get you back on the show again to discuss more about all of that at a later date. So thanks so much for coming on, Clifford. Carlos, do you want to share some closing thoughts?
Yeah, okay. Like we think is no, ya te voy a usar a ti de traductor. Lo que nosotros pensamos es las palabras del abuelo de la montaña, que bajó hace 20 años.
So what we think are the words of the elder from the mountain that came down 20 years ago.
Él es del grupo de los Anjovales.
And he's from the group of the Anjovales.
Y él nos dijo algo. Volvamos a ser humanos.
And he told us something. He said, we're going to make ourselves be human beings.
Ya perdimos este concepto.
And we already lost this concept.
Y él dice, estamos peleando, estamos en la competencia, lo que yo digo es lo más válido, yo tengo la razón o pues, la sabiduría. Y no hay
What
nada.
he says is we are fighting, we are doing all of this competition, we are always saying, I am right, and it's just me.
Y la verdad es que no tenemos por qué estar en competencia.
And the truth is that there is no need for us to be in competition.
No sé quién de ustedes dijo que tenemos que tener compasión.
I don't remember which one of you said that we must have compassion.
Y esa es una palabra que debemos de plantar en nuestro corazón, en nuestra mente.
And that is a word that we have to put deep in our hearts and in our minds.
Y no nos preocupemos de cambiar al mundo, cambiemos nosotros.
Let's not worry about changing the world. Let's worry about changing ourselves.
En la medida que cambiemos, la gente a nuestro alrededor va a cambiar.
And as we change ourselves, the people around us will change as well.
Y bueno, lo que yo les quiero es agradecer a ti, Matt, por el espacio y a mis compañeros por sus palabras de conocimiento, de sabiduría.
And all I want to do is thank you all. I want to thank you, Matt, for this space. And I want to thank everybody else for your great words of wisdom and knowledge.
Y como decimos en maya, Maltiosh,
And how we say in Mayan language, Matiosh,
que quiere decir gracias de
which
corazón.
means thank you from the heart.
Maltiosh a todos. Muchas gracias.
And so Matiosh to everybody.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Carlos. It was great to have you here, and it's always great to hear you speak. I'm glad you were able to make it and share your perspective from the Mayan culture. It's also very deep and very fascinating. I've enjoyed my conversations with you, so I'm glad you're able to make it and share, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Well, David and Jacqueline, any closing thoughts from you guys?
Go first. I didn't expect to be here. I kind of like being in the behind the scenes, but listening and just grateful to hear everybody's words. Thank you, Matt, for putting this all together. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. We get so stuck on our text and Facebook Messenger and on the machines, and people can come on their machines and watch this information. But what are we going to do to actually step out and to make a change and work together, like when we're actually physically together? So I think this is a start in that direction, and thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody on this panel, with your words tonight. The words are heard. I think that, like anything, if there was I talk about God quite a lot. If there was a God or a creator or a programmer, what would that programmer look like in our culture, in our world? And we look for those answers out there in the world of what we talked about today. And we have a lot of different solutions, but like anything else, that it requires a ceremony. The ceremony is being together and actually doing something. There's not one wise person in this world. We keep on thinking somebody's wise and wisdom. There's only wisdom that we use that we can start a fire. As a fire keeper, in our tradition, you had to learn how to make fire from nothing. Go out into the wilderness and rub two sticks together, hit two stones together. And that's part of wisdom, sharing the wisdom. That's kind of what we're doing here today, is that, it's all great words, all great words. What are we going to do? And I leave when I'm talking is that, yes, we're going to talk today, but what are we going to do as soon as this camera goes off and we go back into our world? There's a lot of time, we said time is so vital, it's so vital, so usually that when we get off here, I'm probably going to go do some texting or watch TV or do something. We are probably going out for pizza. So you guys most welcome to join us if you want to, because I'm sitting here, said, do I hear a bear? No, that's my stomach. So I'm kind of hungry today. But yeah. if that creator came to this earth, or the God came to the earth, or the programmer, what would he look like, and where would he go? Would you believe the creator can come back to this earth? Or we pray for the creator to send us some answers, and we look in the weirdest place. Which is the answer staring us right in the face, and we don't even know it? What's that answer look like? And I know that I know some of you, and it's like that change. It's like, yeah, like I said, we get off this camera, we're a whole different person. I'm not. I'm still. We are still looking for the star people, and I have a lot of people. Oh, I'm a star person. Well, maybe so. I'm not questioning that, but a star person cares about this planet, and NASA sent out 2 spacecraft, I think 74, 75, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. When they sent those out, those spacecraft were on exploration mission. They were out to explore the stars, to explore the planets, to say we're here. On those 2, Voyager 1, Voyager 2, there's 2 records on that. They're gold records saying who we are. We're sending out help, sending a message out. Is that all we're going to send out to our ancestors? 2 records? What are we doing here? If you go back and look back, try to find our planet will look like this. That's all our planet would look like. And it doesn't say our culture, it doesn't say our intelligence, it doesn't say anything. Most of our radio signals that come from our planet don't get outside of our whole universe, because the signals are so weak. And we look for messages here into space. 1977, the WOW signal. We had an answer back, but how do we interpret that signal? How do we interpret it that our Earth is not going to be destroyed in 722 years? We don't know that. But is there things on this planet that tells us? Is there a manuscript out there that we can go by on the road of peace? How to get along? How to have a blueprint? How to get along? I'm telling you right now, there is. They're called the Copper Scrolls. I've been deciphering those the last 40 years. It sounds glamorous, but they gives us instructions, even how to talk to each other, how to listen. So look on our websites, look on that. But it's like anything else. It's like, you don't even have to be passionate, If Mother Earth wanted to get rid of us, it would take 3 days to get Mother Earth to get rid of us. Kick us off just like fleas. Are we affecting global warming? There's evidence out there, but the Earth has been warming up and cooling off billions of years before we were here. Sometimes our concerns with the Mother Earth and stuff like that, we want to heal Mother Earth. Well, I think Mother Earth wants to heal us, is to give us a way to get along with each other. And I think that's the hard part to think about, because there's a lot of FUBA out there and a lot of things that tells us way we should think. I think Mother Earth is that we should clean it up. Yes, let's clean up our mess. Not only the natives, but all of us. Is like, let's clean up wherever we go. But I know, as the humans out there, that we are indulging in ourselves. We are basking in our own ego. Oh my goodness, this goes on and on and on. We're trying to get something done, but there's so many crazy stuff out there. And then sometimes I just wish that we just can get along and maybe have a cup of tea or share a meal together. So many subjects and things like that, but there's a lot of things that I need to know from you, and you need to know from me. And a lot of that is just, let's have a meal together. No ceremony, nothing else. Let's just sit down and have a raw meal and eat and drink and probably dance. So many stuff out there that I see that gets in our way. Christianity gets in our way. Spirituality gets in our way. Money gets in our way. All the different things that's out there that it slows us down to the true peace, the peace of mind, true peace of spirit. And that's the hard part. A lot of words, I know. But thank you. I'm honored to be amongst the wisdom keepers. And thank you, Matthew, and thank you, everybody on this panel. I enjoyed your words, and I've been taking notes. So I think that if we're not taking notes, we're going to forget. So don't forget, take notes. Thank you.
Well, thank you, David and Jacqueline, for being here. And thank you, everybody who was able to make it. I really appreciate everything you shared. Every time I talk to you guys individually, I learned so much, and I did again tonight. So thank you, guys. For me, the big message I always hear from all of you is to be kind, is to go out in the world and actually take action. It's to be grounded. And although there's a lot of mystical stuff out there, to be grounded in the action of kindness and compassion in your community. And I'll invite anybody who's listened to this to please check out the other interviews with these amazing people. Check out their work and what they say. They're incredible people. And also to give a suggestion, this one's from David, but of all the interviews I've done and spiritual teachings I've ever heard, the best one I've heard, I think, so far is do 3 kind acts a day. Go out of your way to do it and resist the urge to tell anyone. So if you've watched it this far, I invite you to try that even for a week. Might have a lot of impact. So thank you guys for coming on the show. I really appreciate you all. And thank you so much.
Do something.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thanks for
Bye.
watching.
Bye. Bye.
Girl.